play the guide in the couple's journey. That is what we're talking about in this lesson, how you position yourself not as the hero of the story, but positioning yourself as the guide in the journey of the person who's hiring you. And other DJs, they're going to puff up their chest. They're going to talk about how awesome they are, how many years of experience, how many times they've done this, and how they know what they're doing. And some people will hire them just because they don't have any other options. But if you show up, this is how you differentiate yourself, and this is why people will hire you even though you might not have years of experience, because you're not positioning yourself as some guy who knows it all, but that you're a guy who can be their help. You can show up as the guide here, that you can be the person who's going to help them, who's going to find solutions for them, who's going to be on their team, and to be thinking about their whole process with them and not being bothered by details or discussions that aren't specifically about your industry. You know, I'm in this DJ group, and I'm not going to say which one, but sometimes people complain when they're in a DJ meeting and people will talk about how they don't know what color dress they're going to wear, and the mom doesn't know this yet about the flowers, and they get really discouraged and bent out of shape because they're not talking about DJ items. And I wince every time I see that kind of stuff because I'm like, they're missing it. If you're there and they're talking about the dresses and they're talking about the flowers in front of you, you're a part of their journey. You're a part of this entire process. And sometimes, you know what I do? I love doing this. I take notes about the flowers for them and I let them know, hey, are you going to make sure that the flowers are there? And they then realize, wait a second, this guy just isn't here to do the music for us, but that he cares about the whole process. And what's great is that on wedding day, I'm one extra person who knows what's going on. And some guys are just like, I don't want to be bothered with all those details. I just want to show up and I just want to play the music and I just want to be a DJ. And to be honest, this wedding DJ industry isn't just about doing the music itself. It's not just doing equipment and being on that side of it. It's about really playing your part in the role of the entire day and this point in their life that is coming together for this special occasion. So I want you to think about the big picture of every couple. You know, every couple has a time when they first met, before they even liked each other, before they even were engaged, and even before they were dating, they met at some point. And this might be a topic of conversation for you. Like, I love to talk to people about, when did you guys first meet? What was that like? What were you thinking? And getting them thinking back on their journey, thinking about the story of how they met, is a great way to start off conversation with any couple. So every couple meets and then they start dating. At some point they realize, okay, I think we like each other, let's date. And then there's always something that happens during the dating. They might break up during the dating. They might break up and make up. They might go to weddings and realize, oh, I think we want to be together. And there's all this fun stuff that they do, but it always ends at some point with them realizing that they don't just want to date anymore, that they want to take it to the next level. And that's when the proposal comes in. If you have not seen the movie The Proposal, go ahead and watch it, just to kind of be thinking about that story of two people that meet and they kind of date by accident, and then something happens during that dating period. They go through some fun events and some memorable milestones in their life, and it results in a proposal and an actual request of, do you want to get married? And it's an exciting time. So asking about the proposal and asking about how they got to that point in the relationship can help you frame it. So I like thinking through these things because it's not just about knowing the journey that they had and having that tucked away in your brain, but engage this story a little bit. Ask the couple, when did you guys meet? What was the proposal like? Tell me about your life when you guys were dating, because these are little tiny clues. They might mention a restaurant. They might mention a place that they went or a movie that they saw. And I want you to take mental notes during this process, because I was once with a couple and they told me how much they loved the summertime and going to Rita's and just chilling outside with their sunglasses on. And they were getting married in the winter, but they wanted to have a vibe of summer during their wedding. So I remember that in the back of my head. And I remember making a little note that these guys loved Rita's. And I didn't even say anything in the moment. Like, I didn't make a big deal about it, but I just knew that this couple liked Rita's. And I went ahead and I went and got them a $10 gift card. And I'm not telling you this to brag about it or boast about it, but little tiny details like this can help to set you apart. And if you don't engage in this journey, if you don't engage in the story that they are living, you're not going to know these little details. You're going to miss opportunities to impress them and to go that extra mile. So there's always things that happen in the dating process and when they got proposed, when they got engaged, engaged. So ask about these things. Now, after the proposal is when craziness happens. After the proposal, pretty much immediately, there's a celebration, they take photos, and wedding planning starts right away. As soon as somebody knows that somebody's married, they will ask, so when's the big day? And sometimes a couple doesn't even know what the big day is. And I bet every couple that you work with will be so tired of the question, so when is the big day? Because it's this big thing, and right away you don't know what the big day is. You just got engaged. So be thinking about this. Be thinking about the fact that this is a crazy time in their life. Everything moves so fast after the proposal. Usually everything isn't planned out from the beginning. And in that time, they start to develop their preferences. They start to talk about, what should our wedding look like? What is it going to be like? And they'll start talking to their family members. And a lot of times, mothers of the bride, they have an idea of what they want the wedding to be because they've been planning their daughter's wedding since they were a little girl. And sometimes the groom has an idea of what he wants the wedding to be. But let me tell you, the groom is not the most important part of the wedding day. It's usually the bride. And the bride has an idea of what she wants her wedding to be like. She wants her groom to be happy, but she also wants to make sure her mom, that she's living up to expectations of her mom. This is very common for all of these things to kind of just come together immediately right after the proposal. So I love to just kind of tap into that a little bit and just ask, hey, how's the wedding planning going? Like, have you had ideas about this your whole life? And then just take a step back, shut up, and listen to what they have to say. DJs make a huge mistake when they fill silence with talking. And silence, particularly in meetings, I'm referencing in contracting meetings and just planning meetings. You can really learn a lot about the people that you're working with by just asking a question and then listening. And it can help you frame what you're doing and help to make those little mental notes that we talked about. But more importantly, it serves them because you have to remember that even just by going through this course, you know more about weddings and know more about the process than the average person does. And not everybody does weddings on repeat. So even you'll have to remember this after doing a handful of weddings, that this is the first time probably that they've gotten married. And even if it's their second or third marriage, that is nothing like their 15th or their 20th, which a lot of DJs have. So you have this vantage point of being in the wedding business and knowing about how all these things will come together. And you're going to hear a lot of these stories, and it can be really common to just grow wary of them and just think that they're boring and just kind of glaze over it and get right down to business. But you have to remember that the people that you're serving, the people that are going to pay you, the people that ultimately are going to determine whether or not what you did was a success, this is the first time for them. So let them process this stuff. Give them the mental opportunity to imagine what their day is going to be like, to think about what they've been hoping for this wedding to be. But a lot of that usually happens right after the proposal itself. And then in terms of booking things, they usually book the venue first. They will often book the venue because then they have a place, they have a time, they know where their ceremony is going to be, they know where their reception is going to be. So the venue usually comes first in the planning stages for all the couples. And then they'll go through and book all of the vendors, the caterer, the photographer, the entertainment, whether it's a wedding DJ or a band, figuring out what kind of dress they're going to get, what kind of clothes they're going to wear, tablecloths, linens, decorations, and oh yeah, we need an officiant, and all of these things come crashing down on every couple as they dive into the planning. And there's usually somebody that helps them with the planning. It might be the mother of the bride, it might be an aunt, or maybe it's the sister, a maid of honor, but there's always somebody who's playing a role in helping the wedding happen beyond the couple itself. And I always like to figure out who that person is, because think about it. If you have a daughter or a son or somebody who's getting married and you're a part of their life, a lot of times people want to be included in that. And I like to figure out who that is, because as a DJ, I want to know who all the players are. Who are all the people who have a say? Who are the people whose opinions matter? And sometimes people's opinions don't matter. Like Uncle Jeffrey, he doesn't really care about, it's funny because I actually do have an Uncle Jeff, but the uncle doesn't, what he has to say about the wedding is not as important as the mother of the bride. It's not as important as the bride herself and the maid of honor. So take some time and be thinking about who are the people in this wedding who really have ultimate say. And I've noticed all kinds of different scenarios where the groom tends to play a more active role because he is a very meticulous planner, and sometimes the bride is a more meticulous role. It's all kind of different personalities. But when you meet with the couple and when you're thinking about their journey, realize that every couple and every personality is different. They have different preferences, different bents, and ways of thinking about things. And it's your job to extract that. It's your job to look at them, to look at their situation, and figure out where do you fit in the midst of all these people that are making it all happen. And I will often ask about the caterer. I'll ask about the photographer and how the venue is set up and everything, because these are things that are on their mind, and likely they've already thought about these things before they have reached out to a wedding DJ. So be thinking about the other vendors, and it's a great way to get them talking. It's a great way to be concrete about what's happening for the wedding itself. Then there's all the planning and preparation, working with all these people, the vendors themselves, and how they all fit into the picture of making things happen for the day. And then comes wedding day. And then is the execution of all of the plans and all the dreams and all the hopes. And then after the wedding, there's a honeymoon, and then usually back to reality. It's married life. And then there's some kind of follow-up, some kind of memories, some kind of looking back on all of this and remembering how crazy and exciting it was at the same time. So that is the overarching kind of journey to think about when you frame where you fit in the couple's journey. And think about this for a second. In that overall grand picture of things, the DJ plays a small role. They play the role in the wedding day. And I'm not trying to underplay the importance of the wedding day, but remember, what's exciting to every couple isn't just that one day, but all of this is a part of the journey of their relationship. So frame what you do, frame how you think about this in terms of how you play this pivotal role in this transition of singleness and just dating into actually being married. Okay, next we're going to talk about horizons of focus as it relates to the couple's journey. And I want to use this metaphor of horizons of focus that I got from David Allen's Getting Things Done methodology. And if you've listened to me talk for any length of time, I love David Allen. He's one of my favorite authors. And this book has helped me in so many ways just get a grasp on managing the day-to-day life and keeping in mind the bigger picture. And he has this great teaching about horizons of focus, and it's all based on this analogy of a plane. So imagine you are flying in a plane and you have a window seat. And you take off and you're on the runway, and eventually you get up to 10,000 feet. Then eventually you get up to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and 50,000 feet. When you're up in the air 50,000 feet, you really get a bird's eye view. We use that term a lot, bird's eye view or big picture, and kind of zoom out and look at it from the larger perspective. But I want you to think about what you can see from 50,000 feet above the earth, 50,000 feet up in a plane. It's way different than 40,000. When you get down to 40,000, you can start making out more details. You can start seeing things a little bit more clearly. And it gets even more clear as you go down to 30,000, 20,000, 10, and then back on the runway, back in the dirt, back on the ground. So using that metaphor of the horizons of focus, I want to walk through every couple's journey and then where specifically you fit into that one more time. So at 50,000 feet, we are talking about the purpose, the principles, and core values. And again, I'm getting this from David Allen's Getting Things Done. At 50,000 feet, we talk about the purpose, principles, and core values. And at that level, you're figuring out, okay, is this a Christian wedding? Is it a Quaker wedding? Is it a non-religious wedding? What kind of wedding is this? And what is the purpose? Why is this happening? Is this going to be a reserved wedding? Is this going to be a wild wedding? Is this going to be an alcoholic wedding? Is this going to be a non-alcoholic wedding? All of these things speak to their purpose, their core values, their principles, and getting a grasp on that 50,000 foot view, knowing where you stand. Personally, I'll just be honest with you, I'm a Christian, but I DJ for any kind of person that comes along. So it doesn't matter to me if they are Quaker, which I have done a Quaker wedding, or it doesn't matter to me if they drink alcohol. I mean, for me, I am there to serve and do a great job as their DJ. And I don't know where you fit in that picture of what your core values are, but I want to submit this to you. Honor the core values of your client and figure out what the core values of your client is. What is the couple thinking about, and how can you serve that? And it doesn't matter if you're an expert in these areas. Like I said, I didn't know anything about being a Quaker, and I was honest about that. I was like, tell me more about what it's like to be Quaker, and tell me what I need to know so that I can frame that. And even though we had that difference there, I mean, it wasn't even any kind of disagreement or conflict. It was just knowing where they fit at that 50,000 foot view can help inform you in all of the other decisions that you make. Okay, so that's 50,000. That's kind of the big, overarching bird's eye view. Now let's descend to 40,000 feet and talk about vision. And again, these terms come from David Allen's Horizons of Focus. At the vision level, you think about, what does it feel like? What does it look like? What are the colors and the style? And is this going to be outside? Is it going to be inside? Is it rustic or is it formal? Is it traditional or is it modern? And all of these different things pertain to the vision. And vision is very elusive. We don't always know how to execute the vision because it's just, okay, I think I want it to look rustic. Well, rustic can look like barnwood and it can look like countryside, or rustic could look like beach and it could look like driftwood. Like there's different ways to do the idea of rustic, and there's different ways to do formal. There's, super church formal where you've got flowers and pews and that kind of thing. Or you could do formal and very elegant, like country club style formal. So there's different ways of framing this, and vision is it's kind of elusive because we're not exactly sure what the vision is. It's a lot of times it exists in somebody's head, but we don't actually know what it's going to look like in real life. But it's important to be able to think about the vision. What is the vision for the wedding day? And even think about for this course, what is your vision for what you're going to do after this course? It's that next level, it's that next area of focus to be thinking about. Then we go to 30,000 feet, goals and objectives. And goals and objectives are really important in thinking about specific things that you're not sure about. And a lot of times I will get couples that aren't sure if they want to do sparklers, or they're not sure if they want to throw seed at the ceremony, or if they want to have a photo booth or not. And sometimes there's uncertainty, and as a DJ, you need to know what's actually going to happen on wedding day. But I don't want you to be thinking, well, if it's not certain, I don't need to think about it. Because a lot of times you can help the couple in getting closer to following through with these goals. So if they have a goal of wanting it to be really, really fun, you can brainstorm with them about different activities to execute during the dancing time itself. So the goals and objectives are things that sometimes go away, but usually the ones that stick go down to the next level. We're going to descend now to areas of focus at 20,000 feet. And this very specific phase of areas of focus is when you're talking about the very specific things. Location, which is the venue. Personnel, which is who's in the wedding, who's invited to the wedding, and who's going to be serving everybody at this wedding. Entertainment. What kind of entertainment do we want? Who's going to be providing that entertainment? What's the style of the entertainment, which is where the DJ fits into this? Transportation. Are people flying in? Are they driving there? Where are they able to park? Where are they able to, will there be walking? Is there a parking lot? All of these things pertain to areas of focus. And now we're getting very specific in what's actually going to happen for this wedding when we're talking about those different specific areas. And then we drill down into the project level. And this is the 10,000 foot view. So again, if you're in a plane, you can now see buildings, you can read road signs, you're just above it and you can kind of see everything, but you are getting very specific here. And this is where all of the planning actually happens with each vendor. And you can be thinking about what time they're arriving at the venue itself, where the caterer is going to be set up, and what food they're serving. Is it buffet style? Is it served? Where is the photographer coming in from? Does the photographer have an assistant? Where is the photographer in this whole picture? The coordinator, is there a venue coordinator? Is there a day of coordinator? Is there somebody who's going to help with introductions and lining people up or not? I mean, all these things you don't really know, but this is when you're this specific in, you can really start figuring out who all the people are that are making this stuff happen. Who's the pastor? Who's responsible for flowers and cake and invitations? And again, all of this isn't all on the DJ to figure out. But again, realize that you play a very specific role here in the entertainment piece. And you're going to have to work with the caterer. And you're going to have to work with the photographer to figure out what time they're going to do the mother-daughter or mother-son and father-daughter dance. You're going to have to talk to the coordinator about when they're going to line people up and where they're going to do that at the venue itself. So knowing all of these players, knowing this whole areas of focus and the project level gives you perspective of who you're going to be working with, and identifying these people and knowing about them in advance is going to allow you to have a greater sense of confidence and clarity going into every event that you do. So I just want to remind you, just like we've been talking about the whole time, you are the guide in this. You're not the hero. You are not the most important person, but that you play a role of making all of this come together, that you're going to work with everybody who's involved to get to the point of success. So you might feel like you don't know much about weddings, and you might feel like all of this is brand new to you. And that's totally okay. If this is your first time that you're hearing these terms, or this first time that you're really thinking about weddings, that's totally cool. What I want to encourage you to do is to watch some movies about weddings. Watch The Wedding Singer. Watch The Proposal. Just look up weddings on, type in the word wedding on Netflix and see if you can find movies that are about weddings, because there are a lot of stereotypes, like Adam Sandler movies. But here's the thing, when you watch them through the lens of, okay, I'm going to be performing at these weddings as a DJ, they take on a really eerie truthfulness. And I rewatch some of these movies, and I'm stunned at how good they are at capturing how things actually happen at a wedding. So I want to encourage you to look up wedding movies, and even they are a little cliche, and even though they are a little sappy or whatever, know about these movies, because you're going to be working within this kind of story, and you're going to be working within this kind of journey. And I think it's a great way to frame your work. So that's why this whole idea of the wedding journey, the wedding couple's journey, is why we've spent so much time on this, because I believe that is the best way to get yourself right up to speed with being a professional in this industry. You need to know how all of these things work, and that's a good place for you to start. But just remembering that you are not the hero here. You're just a guide. You're there to help them along the path, and that you're going to be for them, that you're going to be there to support them. So, okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is the sales journey. The sales journey, which we will go into more detail in the sales lesson itself, is the fact that they're going to hear about you somewhere. They're going to hear about your name. They're going to find your website, maybe your email address. And then they're going to contact you, and they're going to say, hey, are you available for our date? Which you will respond either yes or no if you're available. And then they're going to want some pricing information. They're going to want to know, how much is this going to cost? And you'll go back and forth on email to determine a cost and whether or not you're a good fit. And what I used to do before I got a ton of weddings under my belt is I would meet with them in person. I would say, look, no risk. If you guys don't want to go with me, that's okay. But why don't we get together, and why don't we just talk a little bit? And in that meeting, we would go over all the things that we just talked about here in this lesson. So if you've been tuning out, listen up right now, because all of the things that we just talked about in this lesson are the impetus, are the fulcrum of what you can talk about when you meet with a couple. And trust me, when you talk to a couple about all of their ideas and their preferences and their vision and their goals for their wedding day, an insane amount of trust is built, because they recognize that you are listening to them, that you're there to understand them, and they are always going to go with the vendor that understands them and feels like they've been heard, over the guy who just says he's an expert. Because you can say you're an expert, but if you're a jerk to work with and you don't want to listen to anything people have to say, you're probably not going to get hired. Or you might get hired, but they might not have a great, they might not have a great feeling about working with you. And my cousin years ago got married, and I remember that her DJ was a know-it-all. Her DJ said he had been in the business for 35 years, that he knew what he was doing, that blah, 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 all these things, that he was the expert. But the next day, I remember going over to her house with my family to help them move in, and it was just a really exciting time in their life. She was saying how sad she was about how the DJ was so matter-of-fact, and she felt like she had just kind of been run over by a truck from his attitude and his kind of stance on everything in the day. So a DJ, believe it or not, and really every other vendor, has the ability to make a negative impact on every couple. And you can kind of sense this in that initial meeting. You can kind of sense it when you just talk to another person about their work, and you can see who's in it just for the money, and you can see who's in it to really help the couples right away. So if you meet with them, it's a really persuasive technique of just listening to them, listening to their preferences and the ideas that they have, and then asking for the sale. Most people do not get business because they do not ask for the sale. The sales process is really easy. You listen to their needs, you listen to their visions, you let them know that you can make those visions a reality, and then you ask them, would you guys like to hire me? And if you do that, it's a little scary at first. And notice that I even left in a little pause right there. Do you want to hire me? Letting that time to just sit and let it sink in and to let them think about it pretty much 9 times out of 10, and I want you to test this out and see how it works for you. They're probably going to hire you, especially if you've taken the time to just hear them out, look them in the eye, and be a kind person in their life and let them know that you're there for them. But then you want to sign a contract. You don't just want to have a handshake deal, which I made the mistake of doing on the early days. I just shook my friend's hand and I said, "Sure, I'll be your wedding DJ." And you want to have an agreement on paper. That's all a contract is. A written agreement on paper that says what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, and how much you're going to get paid for it. That's all a contract is. Get them to sign it. You want to sign it. Keep a file on your side. Keep a file on their side. And then you want to have them put some money down, some kind of deposit. A deposit is simply money that goes towards the overall total of the balance. So if the entire wedding is $500, maybe they put down $200, and then they would owe $300 before the wedding day. So there's some kind of deposit. Then you plan the wedding with them. You figure out all the details. You figure out all the songs that they need for all the special events that you can find out in the wedding timeline section, which is next. And then you want to execute that. When wedding day rolls around, you show up and you do all the things that you talked about. You create an amazing experience. You have dancing happen. And then at the end of it, you follow up and you ask for a review. You ask if they were satisfied and what their thoughts were on how the day went. And even if there were little glitches here and there, and even if there were little hiccups that were out of your control, the majority of the time, every couple is going to say, "Wow, he was great. She was great. Did a great job at the wedding." And be sure to follow up and ask for a review because they're going to be crucial in getting more sales and getting more people to hire you. So that's just kind of the journey. When you think about every couple, they go through some journey that is somewhat reflective of what we just talked about. And there might be little oddities or little things that are different for each person and how it all came together. But I want to encourage you to think about the journey. This is the main point of this entire lesson. And it's so simple that you might miss it if you're not thinking about it, that a lot of DJs do not leverage the power of the journey to allow them to serve as the guide in this whole big picture. And this will allow you to frame your conversations so that you're not just focused on everything that you need as the DJ, which we will talk about in the coming lessons. But what you need to do in every conversation that you have and in every interaction is remember that you are playing a role in this story, that your role is to guide them through the wedding day, is to work with all of these other people that they are thinking about, that they have on their mind, and to engage in that, to figure out where you fit and how you can communicate and work well with the other players in this story. And not feeling like you have to be overwhelmed by all of that, because it's just as simple as conversations, and it's just as simple as talking to these people, figuring out what they are doing and what their role is in the day, and how you can work with them to contribute towards that overall goal. And having a journey mindset, having this mindset of story and knowing where you fit in it is going to change the way you think about everything. You're going to start noticing that everybody has a story that you engage with, and it's not your job to correct them or tell them that they're right or wrong, but to really, if you are able to be a guide for them, to offer your services, to offer your advice as a guide, as a recommendation, and it's ultimately up to them to choose it, just like it's ultimately up to you and I in the decisions that we take in each of our lives. So I know I'm getting a little philosophical here, but understanding and internalizing every couple's journey and where you fit in that story is the best business advice I think I can give you, because then it's going to frame how you do everything else. It's going to give a deeper connection, and people are going to walk away, and what they're going to say about it is, "I'm not sure what it was with that DJ or with that vendor or with that person that I worked with, even if you use this technique in another job, but I had a connection with them." They're going to feel like they have this deep connection with you, and it's because you engage in their story, you engage in their life, and you're truly interested in all of these little details. And you can then get crazy, and you can take it a step further, and you can decide to surprise them if you can. $10 can go a long way, a little gift card here or there, to just kind of let them know that, hey, I wasn't just asking you those questions because I needed to fill the space with words, but that you really care about them, and letting them know that it really means a lot to you to play a part in their story. So every couple's journey, like I said, you might need to come back to this at some point after you've done a few weddings, just to remember that you really do have a special opportunity each time you work with somebody for their wedding, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. Well, that's it for this lesson. I look forward to seeing you in the next one where we talk about the wedding day timeline. And this is going to be awesome.